Okay, so hopefully you have read Frogs and Toads, and we're gonna go through this together. Okay, and again, comparing and contrasting. How are they the same? How are they different? And while we read this, let's try to find some clue words to help us make the differences and the similarities. Many people confuse frogs and toads. While frogs and toads have some similarities, they also have some differences. Frogs and toads are both amphibians. That word both, that means that's a similarity, something the same. Underline that, please. They begin in life in the water as tadpoles. As they grow, they develop lungs and live on land. Frogs and toads can be found on every continent except Antarctica. Both frogs and toads, there's that clue word again, both, eat insects, spiders, and small fish. They catch their prey with their sticky tongues. Unlike toads, okay, so that means there's something different, right? Because the prefix un means not. So not like toads, frogs live near the water. Frogs have smooth skin that appears slimy. On the contrary, which you may have never heard that phrase before, but contrary means opposite. So that means it's something different. On the contrary, toads have rough, dry, bumpy skin. Frogs' bodies are narrow, while toads' bodies are wide. So the word while, it's talking about frogs, and then while means different also. Lots of clue words here. Frogs' eyes are high and round. Unlike frogs, there's that word unlike again, meaning different. Unlike frogs, toads have lower eyes that are narrow. Frogs have long hind legs that help them jump high. The word hind means back. Toads differ, almost the word different, so it means different. Another great clue word. Signal words. Because they have shorter hind legs and take small hops. Frogs have teeth, whereas toads do not. My goodness, lots of signal words here. Whereas, that means also different. Unlike toads, frogs have many predators. A toad's skin tastes bitter, and its smell burns a predator's eyes and nose. Oh, I never knew that. Frogs and toads are interesting amphibians. Next time you see one hopping outside, try to determine if it is a frog or a toad. I had one in the garage last night, and I was really hoping it wouldn't get into my car. Okay, so let's look at our questions. How are the paragraphs in this passage connected? What clue words help you to determine this? Okay, so we look back at our signal words, and we know that they're comparing frogs and toads. Remember when it says, how are they connected? How is each paragraph connected? Connected by compare and contrast. So we take off our question words, how, are, and then we start with our sentence. You could say the paragraphs or just the word they are connected. So that's one question, two questions. They are connected by comparing. Comparing means same. And contrasting, that word means different. Frogs and toads. Period. So again, when it's asking how they are connected, what makes them similar? Well, they're talking about frogs and toads. They're saying how they are the same and how they are different. So that is compare, contrast text structure. Part 2, what clue words help you determine this? Well, as we were reading, we were underlining our signal words or clue words, so that's going to be really easy. I don't have enough space there to write a complete sentence, so I'm just going to write EX period, and that's short for example, and I'm going to pick out 3 words that we underlined. We have the word both, that's how they were the same. Unlike, that's how they're different. And another one, differ. So those were our clue words, and what makes it really easy to write them because we underlined them as we were reading. Okay, it says underline 2 sentences that show this connection. Write them below. Well, we're just going to underline them. If we underlined them, we found them, so we don't need to write them. So we're going to underline 2 sentences that show a compare and contrast. And that should be easy, again, because we've underlined our signal words. So I'm going to underline this one. Frogs and toads are both amphibians. That tells us how they are the same. And then I'm going to underline one that shows how they are different. Unlike toads, frogs live near the water, so toads don't. And like I just said, we've underlined them, so we're not going to write them right now. If you want to write them, you can. If you do, they better all be spelled correctly because they are in your face words. All right, let's look over at number 3. How are frogs and toads similar? Check all that apply. There's that word, check all, right? How are they similar? How are they the same? Well, being that we've underlined our signal words, that should be pretty easy. Frogs and toads are amphibians. Did we underline that? Frogs and toads are amphibians. Yep. So that would be correct. Frogs and toads live near the water. Unlike toads, frogs live near the water. So is that something that's the same? No, because that signal word tells us it's different. Frogs and toads have sticky tongues. Well, we read about, in the text, where did we read that? About their tongues. Because we talked about how they get their food. Oh, here we go. They catch their prey with their sticky tongues. So is that something similar? Yes, because it says they. It doesn't say frogs do or toads do. It says they. That means both. Frogs and toads live on every continent except Antarctica. Let's see, where did we read that? I'm going to use that big word Antarctica, and I'm going to scan to see if I can find it real quickly. Oh, there it is. Frogs and toads can be found on every continent except Antarctica. So that's something similar as well because it says frogs and toads, so it means both of them. How are frogs different? Use 3 examples from the text to support your answer. Again, that should be pretty easy because we've underlined our signal words. Let's see. How about frogs? What kind of skin do they have? Frogs have smooth skin, but toads are bumpy. Okay, that's one example because it's talking about how they are different. You can't just say frogs have smooth skin, toads are bumpy. That's not 2. This is one example because you're talking about the skin and how they're different. So let's talk about their bodies. What does it say about their bodies? What does it say about their bodies? Well, we could talk about their hops. Frogs jump high. Toads take small hops. Okay. Frogs jump high. But, and that's a signal word. That's another signal word, clue word that means different. But toads take small hops, period. So that's one more example. We're talking about the hops, but how they are different. So we need one more example. What about their eyes? Go back and find about their eyes. Let's see. unlike frogs, toads have lower eyes that are narrow. Toads, I don't know what I just said. Frogs' eyes are high and round. Toads have lower eyes that are narrow. Okay. Frogs' eyes are high, but toads, you should be writing with a pencil. Toads. I write in pen because I think you can see it better than a pencil, but I make mistakes too. But toads' eyes are low. Period. So if you're ready, go ahead and start reading question 5. The text states that frogs have many predators. How does this differ from toads? So this question is about predators. So I'm going to go back and scan my passage to find that word predator, and then I'm going to read around it. So again, when you're scanning, you don't have to read every single word. You just kind of take your eyes and go across and try to find that word predator. And I know we read about that towards the end. That I do remember. So I'm going to start sort of towards the end and find that word predator. Oh, stop, found it. Now I'm going to read around it. Unlike toads, frogs have many predators. A toad's skin tastes bitter and its smell burns a predator's eyes and nose. So toads, let's see, unlike toads, frogs have many predators. Okay? So that means toads do not. Toads have many predators too. No, we just read that they don't. Toads have different predators than frogs. No, we didn't read that. Frogs have more predators because they live by the water. No, we didn't read that either. Just because I have one left doesn't mean it's right, so we always want to reread it. Toads do not have many predators because they have a bitter taste and burning smell. Yep, we read that. So since we have completed this, I want you to cut off the edges and glue it in your reading journal so you have your example of compare and contrast. And again, when we're comparing and contrasting, we're talking about how things are alike and how they are different.